Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, it's Hannah Cohen. Her gorgeous album, Earth Star Mountain, is out now. And there's a few things that I really enjoyed about this conversation. One, she gave me and you a quite detailed look at the writing process behind her song Rag on the latest album. And it started because she takes daily walks and would see the same rag by the side of the road every day and decided to write a song about it. So we went deep into the process behind it and how she wrote that song. And then that led into a discussion of poetic images and poetry and how a good poet finds beauty in even the most mundane of things. We also talked a lot about food as nourishment, and I expected the conversation to be more about the metaphorical nourishment, but she talked about, no, the practical idea that food as nutrition makes you a better writer because it gives you energy and keeps you going. And I thought, wow, what a great analogical thing. I've had probably 400 conversations with songwriters, and never once have we talked about, yeah, you need food, you need energy, you need that nutrition for long writing sessions. Don't overthink it. It's the practical element of if you're hungry, if you're starving, you're not going to be able to be productive. So we did talk a lot about that. And I thought, wow, what a blatantly obvious idea that we've never discussed before. We could talk about caffeine or other things, but never, hey, you got to eat if you want to be productive. I love her idea. I wrote this quote down. She said, "The body keeps score." And that is the idea that I firmly believe in. And even when you're not writing, you're not putting pen to paper, your writing process is always taking place while you are eating, cooking, working out, sleeping, talking, anything like that. And we went into that as well. So I love this conversation. She is hilarious, such great insight into her process and the process in general. Again, Hannah Cohen's latest album is called Earth Star Mountain, and here's my interview with Hannah Cohen. Is it important for you to create in some fashion every day, whether it's writing? Some songwriters feel like they need to create, others feel like to force things would be more problematic. So where do you fall in that?
I think I have moments in my life where being creative in the morning, um, the morning is my time. But I find other ways to be creative and be in cooking or nature or like artwork or so I think I'm always kind of scratching the creative, like just yeah, like improvising with anything, like I don't know, like moving the interiors around, like I'm always kind of shifting things around. But, I think there's moments when I haven't written something and, like, even when you're not writing, you're writing, and that's, like, my belief is so I guess that's my answer is even when you're not writing, you're writing because you're absorbing and you're soaking things up and things are happening in your subconscious and, like, the body keeps score, and I think all those things are stored in there. So, like, when you write something and then you feel like I'm never gonna write something ever again, and it's like a very scary feeling. Um, but it's not true. It's there. It's still in you. So, but yeah, I love doing like song a day workshops with friends and stuff to just keep that muscle going. But then I also find that, not writing, and then when I finally am off tour and I have a week, I'll pick up a guitar and just shit will come out. You know? Shit, oh god. Uh, Music, ideas, free form, stream of consciousness, it just comes out. So, yeah.
I love what you said because when I was a professor, I told my students word for word almost what you said, and that is the writing process is always taking place. And I find that, as a writer also to tremendously lessen anxiety, because I would tell them, if you think that the writing process only takes place when pen hits paper, you're never going to do anything. But
Yeah.
I literally tell them the same thing. It's taking place while you are eating, sleeping, working out, cooking, doing
Walking.
nothing,
Yeah.
walking, and it's that sense of yeah, it's not happening now, but there's something in the subconscious that's
You're
stewing around. So
storing it.
I
Yeah.
love that you said that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like, just, like, observing I love observing people and nature and interactions and animals or anything, like, just being open to everything, you know? Like, anything can mean everything, like, something as simple as, yeah, like, a rag on the side of the road can be really meaningful, and, yeah, anything can mean everything.
So I actually last month interviewed the Irish poet Paul Muldoon, who's iconic as a poet. I mean, iconic. And one of the things he has a side gig actually as a songwriter, but he's a professor and he's an iconic poet. And we talked about that, how poets and good writers tend to see the beauty in mundane things. And the fact that you said rag by the side of the road, um, I love that image, but that's what good writers or good poets do is they see the beauty in those things. Like I would
Yeah.
never think of that being something to write about, but I
Yeah.
love that you said that.
Yeah, well, there's a song on my record called "Rag," and the song goes, "See that rag on the side of the road? It's just laying oh gosh, I'm not it's been laying there for years, getting dusty and old, in the rain, in the rain, in the snow, in the blistering heat. I find it comforting to know that it's just laying there waiting for me." Um, you
How did
know
that come about?
this rag on the side of the road on the road on this old road that I live on, and I would go on walks every day, and I watched it disintegrate over years, and it would be this thing that it became like a friend. I was like I had this, like, relationship with always looking at it, and then I couldn't not look at it, and seeing the sun and rain and snow disintegrate it and time watching time, like, have its way with this rag was really a cool experience to witness. And, yeah, like, witnessing time and, what it does to just, like, an inanimate object is really beautiful, and it's a reminder yeah, like, the song kind of talks about my neighbors and um, my 75-year-old neighbor, Ed, and, his mother-in-law is still alive, and how does that work? I don't know. Like, there's, um yeah, there's just this whole world can kind of explode out of just one rag, and again, like, anything can mean everything in it, and yeah, like, it reminded me of, you know company that this thing was keeping me company and became like a friend to me and just like witnessing it was really cool.
So at what point did that rag become poetic to you? You must walk by it several times, and at some point you walked by it, and there must have been that moment where you thought, "Wow,
There's something.
there's power in that image." Do you remember? I'm fascinated by that idea that you walk by it every day, and at some point it must have dawned on you, right?
Yeah, I think after like a week or two of becoming more acquainted with this rag. Also, the rag was like it was like a pink rag with red stitching on it, and it was just, like, hanging on the edge of like a wooden fence, like an old funky wooden fence, and yeah, I don't know why, I just, why do you maybe it's obsessive, I don't know, I became very, um, involved with this rag.
I love it. I That's
Yeah.
amazing. And I had interviewed I occasionally interview poets, as I mentioned earlier, and I interviewed about 10 years ago, one of my favorite poets, Lee Young Lee, and, he said that he found I'll never forget this, he found beauty in the outline of his and his body's wife in the bed sheets in the morning. Well, I see bed sheets and I think, "I need to make the bed," but he saw the outline of their bodies when we got out of bed, and I thought, "Wow, that's why he's a poet, and I'm
Yeah,
not."
that's beautiful. Yeah.
I wanna go back to the cooking because I hear this occasionally, not that often, that songwriters like to cook. So is the cooking and I think the art that you do, is that a diversion from the songwriting, or is it a way for when you're doing those things that maybe ideas bubble up?
I think the improvising with what you have, having, parameters of I think having parameters within writing is really cool, so I think those things can kind of there are parallels there. Um, I think I find cooking really relaxing and exciting, but also cooking is so wrapped up in what we do here. So my partner, Sam Evian, and I run a recording studio, and bands come and stay, and we cook and we have meals together, and having this shared meal together and working on music together is just this way of kind of around yeah, centering around something else other than music, but it fuels the music, making food that fuels you, that makes you feel creative and doesn't slow you down and, you know you know, we call them like session enders, when you're, like, in a studio in the city and you order in burritos and then everyone's, like, laying on the leather couch, in the control room, and they're like, oh, like, we don't want that to happen to musicians or ourselves, so, yeah, cooking yeah, I think it's just an extension of it can be very musical. There's many different elements. There's, separate elements that you bring together and they make music, or food. Yeah.
I That reminds me, a couple months ago, I had all 3 of the women from I'm With Her
Oh,
on,
cool.
and I've had them on individually, but never together, all 3 of them. I think I had 3 of them or 2 of them. Anyway, they talked about going to the grocery store and making meals as that communal
Yeah.
process and how that made them more creative.
Mhm.
Um, but it sounds like when you say fueling it, you mean a literal fuel, not necessarily, "Oh, as I'm chopping vegetables, there's a song idea
Yeah,
that's."
no, I'm never really thinking about, a song while I'm cooking. It's more like yeah, it's fueling,
Yeah.
giving me the power and to have, like yeah, gotta get your proteins in, you gotta get your greens in. But yeah, I feel like recently or not it was back in October, I had an interview, with this guy, Mac, in, Kingston, and he said, "Can you instead of having you describe your music, what it sounds like, can you describe it in a food?" And I really love that because it's so hard to say or at least for me, and I think a lot of musicians, if you ask them like, "Oh, what does your music sound like?" They're like, "Oh god, I don't know," Um, but I loved having the reference of, like, what kind of food would your music be? And I said, probably like a soup, like a like a like a soba noodle soup or something, because there's like a big broth, there's a lot of different elements. There's the buckwheat noodles, and you got some greens, you got some pork in there, or like a chicken meatball and mushrooms and carrots and, maybe some yuzu pepper. There's a lot of influences in my music, I think, and so, like, thinking of it as like a soup, that's what it's not like, yeah, it's not like a chicken parmesan, it's a soup, it's a brothy soup.
You mentioned you're a morning person, and I'm fascinated by the rituals of writers, not just songwriters, but
Yeah.
writers in general. I absolutely have a specific ritual. I'm a morning person as well. I was never been an evening person. One of my quirks is that I write. I always have to write and revise in a different place. So if I write here, I revise in that chair behind me.
Oh, okay.
I need distance. I mean, physical, metaphorical, you name it, to be able to revise. But I do have specific things I have to have with me. So I'd love to discuss that with you. So when you say morning,
Mhm.
how early is that? And go ahead.
I would say, yeah, like 7:30. I'm up, so my partner, Sam Evian, he's a night owl. His time is nighttime, and he'll be up until, like, 4 working in the studio, like, from, like, yeah, like, 1 to 4 is his, like, golden hour, and so I think, I'm diverging here, the conversation a little bit, but artists who are in a partnership with artists and, like, finding your time and space to be an artist without your artist partner is really important. So, like, we both cherish, like, he's not a morning person, I'm a morning person, like, I have this window of time from, like, 7 a.m. until, like, 11:30 where I can play guitar and sing, and we also have a studio, so I can go out there, but I really like to be in the living room. I love being in front of a window, a big window that I kind of, like, gloss over. It's this funny thing, like, my eyes kind of gloss it's kind of this kind of scary image, but I just kind of gloss over and stare out the window at the trees or just wherever I am, if I can be in nature and, like, looking out the window. Even in a city, it's fine too, but having distance helps me, like, portal or something, or stream of consciousness. I need to have a big open window, um, and a comfortable seat and my nylon guitar, my Martin, which was a gift from Sam, which I cherish, and, like, yeah, like a cup of, I'm really into, um, roasted dandelion root tea. I'm obsessed, like, that's my ritual in the morning is I have, like, a really strong cup of that. It's caffeine free, but I brew it very strong, and I have some tea, and then I'll have some, like, yeah, breakfast nibbles, some protein. I'm also trying to get protein in as soon as I wake up because especially with, women, I'm learning, like, that having protein, like, within the hour that you wake up sets up the rest of your day, so you're not having these blood sugar crashes, and it's just keeping you, like, more level. There's a lot of stuff going on in these bodies. Like, and yeah, getting some food in and having that tea, having a big open window and a comfortable seat, like a couch or a comfortable chair and my guitar and, yeah, paper to write down on, and then I use my voice notes. That's yeah, and I'm usually hmm, I'm start out playing, like, a melody or playing some chords, and then I start, humming a melody and sort of, like, words will start just kind of stream of conscious coming out, or sound syllables will kinda come out, and then I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like this," and then, like, the song will form from there. Sometimes I have an idea for a song already, sometimes I have lyrics, like that song "Rag," I wrote in my head those lyrics just walking down the road. So it took me, like, 40 minutes to get home. I didn't have my phone on me, so I was just kept repeating it, and I was like, "Oh my god, fuck, I can't lose this." It was, like, kind of scary because I really loved what I was coming up with, and so I had to get home and, like, write it down, really quickly, and then I started playing guitar and just had a simple, like, 4 chords underneath it, and it wrote itself.
Okay, I have so many follow-ups. I don't even know where
Yeah.
to begin with this.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, I just kind of sputtered that out.
are
There's
you kidding
other
me? That's one of the best answers I've ever gotten. First of all, I love the specificity, number 1, and number 2, it dawned on me that I've done this for 15 years, and I think you could be the first songwriter that has told me about the role of nutrition to the writing process, which I agree
Yeah,
with 100%. But people talk about caffeine and all those kind of things, but I mean, I agree with you 100% that if you're
yeah,
not fueled, we've talked about that so
yeah,
much already today, then your brain's not going to work.
yeah, yeah. You need those, those wires to be, sparking, and connected, and if you don't
Huh.
have the fuel for that, I mean, also, some people also, like, at times, like, I'll be writing something and I don't wanna break for food yet because I don't wanna like, you're just, like, flowing in this, like, flow state with the song and keep playing it over and over again and combing through it, but there's time for food in that. For that too. But I think starting out your day, especially for me, it sets me up for the rest of the day where I don't get as scattered as, or my dad would say, "Katze Katze. Um,
What is that?
Katze, it's like, I don't know, is it like a Yiddish term? It's like when you get all, vertutzt. I'm coming out with all this Yiddish. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's like when you're like disheveled, or like when you lose your keys, like,
Okay.
within the same in your phone. You can't find your shit, Katze.
Specific chair. You mentioned chairs a few times. I
Yeah.
absolutely have a specific chair, but does that matter?
Just like a sturdy place. I think if feeling grounded, I think, not like sinking into, yeah, I think feeling grounded and sturdy, I think is important for anything in your life. Um, Having a strong foundation, we all need that. I think also, like, not being too fussy either is also a thing too. Like, yeah, whatever. I'm happy. Yeah, give me a comfortable chair, but I can create anywhere.
Well, I was going to say that's my fear is that when I adhere too strictly to a ritual, that
Mm.
means that when I'm not in those places, I can't create.
Yeah. I think, just the outlook of not overthinking it too much, and, like, yeah, like, like my saying, like, when you're not writing, you're still writing, like, you're good. Yeah, like, building it up too much, I think a lot of people work themselves up into a place where they, like, "Oh, you know, I have to be in pain to write," or I have to drink, or I have to experience something really terrible for me to make something beautiful, or I have to be stoned to, like, turn this part off of my brain. I think that is a slippery slope.
Now I'm going to get very specific here because you did mention paper. I find that songwriters are incredibly particular about type of paper or brand of pen or pencil, color of ink. Does that
Mm.
matter to you?
No, I'll just use whatever's there. Usually what I can never find my fucking notebook. I have so many of them, and they're always like, because we're moving all the time, we're touring, or like, or we have a lot of guests and bands coming through, and I usually will just, like, clear everything up and, like, shove it in a drawer or something. It's a bad habit of mine. But usually I end up writing on the back of, like, old mail, like junk mail. I'll write lyrics on the back of that. That's I tend to, yeah, just scribble things down on just loose pieces of paper. It's
But
pretty
that's what I'm talking about. It
unsightly, yeah.
makes it kinda less precious, right?
Yeah, totally, yeah, and the pen, I do love those what are those Japanese pens, that kind of have a circusy vibe? They're, like, white and, like, orange, pinstriped, and they're, like, a really fine pen tip.
Hmm.
I'll get the name of it. They're really great. But literally I'll use anything. It's not great using I remember writing, with an orange pen, that was not great. That was very hard. But yeah, a black or blue. Yeah, don't go, any brighter than yeah, like red, not so much. Don't do orange. We have an orange pen here, and I'm always like, "I just need to get rid of that." Like, no one wants that.
Yeah,
No one
no
wants
one
an
writes in
orange
orange.
pen. Yeah, like thin orange, you can't even see it. It's terrible.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about the role of movement because you had mentioned about writing the song on the walk. So, there was a book, a great book I read called The Friendship. And it was about the friendship between Wordsworth and Coleridge, the poets.
Mm,
And they both composed almost entirely on walks,
yeah.
um, in their minds. And same thing you did. Now they estimate Wordsworth walked like 100,000 miles in his lifetime, right? But if you
Well,
think about it, there's nothing else to do back then, so they just walked all
yeah.
day. So how often does I guess there's a couple of things at play here. First of all, how often does movement stimulate the creative process? Now, whether it's let's break this down, it can be self-ambulatory, so walking, running, biking. It can be on a plane, car,
Yeah.
bus. Yeah.
Well, we live in the Catskill Mountains, and we have a rescue dog, Jan, who is the light of our lives. And she's very active, and she is very routine based, and she has her rituals too. And so she needs a big walk every day. So or at least she's getting, 2 30-minute walks a day, but we usually do this, like, off leash just in our backwoods. It's an old logging trail. There's many of them up here that we go on, so I take her out on hikes mostly every day. I haven't in the last couple days because there's, the fires in Canada. It was super smoky out. But yeah, I walk a lot and hike a lot with Jan, our dog, and I just think like there's nobody out there either. They're like old logging trails on state land. We're on like 6 acres, but the most of the property is just back hill woods. So I can just sing and I just sing or hang out by the creek, and sing with Janny. And I just kinda comb through the song, and I'll rework phrasing, I'll rework the lyrics a bit, and yeah, it's very meditative. I like saying comb through the song because 'cause you're, like, kind of getting the tangles out and the flow, and I'll try out a new verse or yeah, just kind of fine tune things when I'm walking and hiking.
Now, what about had you get ideas in those other times, driving, plane, bus, train, things like that?
Yeah, I have ideas and I'll like jot them down or sometimes I'll sing them into my phone when I'm driving. Um yeah, it just depends. Yeah, like when you capture something, I I feel like currently, I feel like there are songs brewing in me that and I just need to, like, sit down and get them out, and, like, that I'm excited about that, uh, but, yeah, I think, you can find a song in anything. There's yeah, it's just, like, capturing it and, yeah, movement really helps, yeah, but also those morning things. I'm always just kinda, uh, percolating.
And Maya Angelou once said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you."
Mm. Wow, that's beautiful.
but it's kind of made me think of that when you said it's these things are brewing.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Um, so when do you know? I guess you didn't say agony, but she says agony. I
yeah.
think there's a different thing, right?
Yeah,
R-
no.
but how often? When do you know, or how often do you get that urge to write? Not like I want to write, but I have to write because I think there's a
Mm.
difference.
Um, yeah, I think that's it's like quarterly, I think. I think like there's like chunks. I mean, I think uh, we are so busy with our work life. Sam's career and my career and then the studio, like we always kind of are separating or like kind of corralling our time of like, when Sam has his record and his like record release cycle and when we're touring, that's the time and then we like recoup and then we have bands coming to come work at our studio, then that's time and then we have my record and my record release and cycle and then we break. So we're always kind of like flowing between uh a lot of a lot of action, so finding our time to do that is sometimes small.
And you had mentioned distance, and again, I think you were talking about literal distance, but then writers fall into two camps: those that think you need temporal distance to be able to write about something, and others who say that you need the immediacy of it when you're writing
Mm.
about something. So, where do you stand on that? If you're writing about a specific event or a person, do you need distance, or is it the immediacy that's more effective?
I think I think both. I think I when I write a song and then, like, a couple of years later, then be like, "Oh, wow, I was really working through that thing," or, um, I think it just depends. Yeah, I mean, usually when I'm writing, it's very stream of consciousness, subconscious things are coming out and things that I'm questioning or working on or working through, um, and they come out. So I guess there is a lot of immediacy there. Uh, yeah, it just depends. Yeah. I think there's like different types of writing. Yeah, like maybe I'll tap back into, my earlier years of being, 17 in New York and, you know, dating men who are 20 years older than me. And, maybe I'll get back into that and be like, that was fucked up. That was not great. Um, Maybe I'll look back at that and there'll be a song in there, but I also don't need to look back at that so much. I just keep going. Um, I think, yeah, writing about what you're like, why are we writing? I think asking like, why am I making this song? Why am I writing this song is a good question to ask too.
What about writer's block? I mean, I interviewed Christian Lee Hudson, and he said something. I actually wrote this down. He said, "My biggest hurdle as a writer is trying to hack my brain to become less critical." And then I had Shura on recently, and she
I
said,
love Shura.
"She can I say something?
She's
That was one of the funniest interviews. I mean,
a
I
real
don't."
hoot.
Yeah, I don't know that that comes across in with
Her
some
music,
people.
yeah.
I mean, it was just one giant laugh fest. She is hilarious. I mean,
So much
great
fun.
songwriter, but there's a career as a comedian there also, I think, if it doesn't work.
Absolutely. She's hysterical.
Hysterical.
She came up
Um,
to work with us at the studio, years ago, and we've been in touch ever since, and I adore her, and she was so much fun. So
so
she's
here's what yeah,
Yeah,
go
what'd
ahead.
she say?
She said, I struggle with the editor in me that erases it before it hits the page.
Whoa. I think I can understand why or Shura is saying, like, I have to fight this, the editor who's, like, deleting it before it even hits the page, and I think that's it. I mean, I'm bummed to hear that because the internet can be a really critical and scary place, and I think for artists, especially now, you know, artists are really struggling to, like, financially make it, and it's harder and harder for artists to make money and to survive, and so, like, everything feels so permanent and, like, that this decision that you're making is extremely important and can, like, make or break you. I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of young people feel that way. I think the internet has been really and social media has been really poisonous in that aspect for I hear a lot of musicians and young people just like uh yeah, like never putting things out because they're scared of like or like not it's not good enough or it's not like the right move or you know for writer's block or anything like that. My friend Greta Morgan, who's an incredible
Amazing.
songwriter,
Yeah.
and she invited me to a poetry party which is a writing exercise where everyone brings in a poem or a piece of writing that they like, or even song lyrics, and they read like three pieces that they really like. And we have a big stew. It's also circled around a meal, protein rich meal, nutrient rich meal. So everyone uh, and there was 4 of us there, and this is how I ended up writing my song "Mountain" on my record. And so everyone reads their work that they like, and while the person is reading, everyone's writing on we have a bunch of little pieces of paper, and we all write down words that come out to us that we really like, um stillness or mountain or losing um or nasty. This is where how I came up with this song. For mountain, the lyrics, it's losing you is a mountain of stillness. And so you have these prompts. So I had mountain and stillness and losing. And I had recently lost a very close friend and was mm, processing that and in a really rough place. And so these prompts, that's what I came up with. And I think being okay with making a bad poem is really important. Being okay with writing a bad song and keep going is really important. I think also like, yeah, like a song a day, um, exercise with like other writers, like showing up, sending in that song at the end of the day, even if it sucks or even if it's like not finished, but you like said you were going to do it. I think keeping that muscle moving, is really important. So I think, yeah, a writer's block. I think that's where we started here is just the avoiding writer's block is like not taking too many breaks and also try doing a poetry party and find words and write. Yeah, like be creative, improvise with these prompts of like words that you didn't come up with but you make something out of and that's been a really great way of showing me, like, when I felt like I couldn't write another song, and I had gone through this really intense, experience of losing a friend and it and grief kind of taking over my entire, nervous system and world, and I felt like whatever I was going to say, like, I didn't have the right to talk about it or I yeah, so, like, taking myself out of that and having these prompts, it showed me that I did still have song in me, I did still have writing in me, it just, I needed to, like, kinda rework it, and, yeah, I think writer's block, I think that word, um that should be blown up.
All right, so let's end with this. Uh, how often I do find that songwriters are pretty voracious readers. So I'd love to know um, who you like to read, whether are you an author person or a genre person, and how often that influences your own songwriting, if at all. It doesn't have to.
Oh, well, I'm very embarrassed to say I'm not reading right now, but the last book I read was All Fours, and Miranda July, and I listened to it, and it was her reading, and it was just so delightful and hysterical and insane, and I loved it so much. And then I really like reading biographies. Um, I I thought I was in the airport and I thought I was, buying a book of short stories from a bunch of different authors, but it ended up being little biographies of all of these authors. It was so funny. I was like, "Wait, what did I just do?" I thought it was like all these, like, all the greats. But it was just like a 1 page or like 1.5 page, little or no, it would be like 3 pages for, these writers, and I just loved it. I'm always whenever I'm interested in an artist, I always, like, Wikipedia them, and I go, like, straight to, like, personal life. I'm like, "I wanna hear about the ugly stuff, give me the dirty laundry." I'm like, "Oh, so and so was, both their parents died when they were, 4 years old, from or like their sister died of diphtheria, and then she was sent to live with her aunties, and then those aunties died, and then she was 18, and then she was living on her own." Like, all these writers had a lot of tragedy. A lot of writers have had a lot of tragedy or, yeah, I love reading about, their lives and how they ended up being these writers or songwriters or artists,
S
yeah.
so are you reading things by those writers or just reading about those writers?
No, I'm just reading about the writers. And then at the end of, this little biography, it'd be like, "Start with this book of theirs." So I now have a list. I got it at the airport. I have to find it. It's next to my bed somewhere. It was really funny. I was like but yeah, I like reading autobiographies. And I love reading history books. I love reading about the Catskills. Recently, I've been really into just like, yeah, I love reading about the history of things.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug. My book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.